welcome back. Today we're gonna make Golgi complex and I'm gonna use this microscopic image as my reference to create these stacked vesicles that you can see. Okay, let's begin by deleting the default cube and add a UV sphere. Let's go to edit mode. And select half of the top half of the sphere. It's better to use the vertex select. And make sure you've selected all of them, even those that are behind, and delete them. Now back to object mode. Okay. Now let's scale the sphere, probably along the y-axis a little bit to make it more oval, like that, and then along the x-axis to make it a bit more narrow. And don't forget to scale. Okay, now let's add modifiers. First one, subdivision surface. I think 2 should be enough for now. And we need solidify as well to give it a little bit of a volume. Maybe increase it a bit. Okay. Now we're going to use a sculpting mode. There should be other ways to do this, but I really like a sculpting mode. So if you click, make sure you've selected the object, go to sculpting, and there are a lot of sculpting tools here. We can use grab or elastic deform or a snake hook to move around pieces of the mesh. Can use F on your keyboard to increase the size of the brush, and Shift and F to increase or decrease the intensity of it. I'm going to keep it at 0.5 for now, and let's use grab. So you can grab parts of your mesh in directions that you like. Whoop, that. So I want to narrow the middle part. If you want to be more precise, it's better to decrease the size of the brush. You can play with it until you like the look of it. It's your imagination. So this is what I ended up with. Now let's add some bumps to it. Pick this tool called Blur, adjust the brush size, and I would increase the intensity to 1, and we can add a little bit of bumps to make it look more natural or organic. Now let's go back to layout tab and let's rotate this. Okay, move it up. And the easiest way to do this, I would say, let's duplicate it. Scale it. Apply scale. Okay, but we don't want it to be exactly like the one that it's on the top, so we can go back to sculpting mode and modify it a little bit so it will look different from the other one. You can use the grab tool again and make some changes. This is how mine look like. Keep doing this until you have something that looks like this, a stack of vesicles, maybe 6, 7, 8, and you just want to keep changing the size and then modify it a little bit so they don't, all of them don't look like each other. Mine look like at the end. Now we can also add some UV spheres. Actually, let's move it to here so we can see it better. Scale it down. Shade it smooth. And then add a subdivision surface modifier. And then add a displace. Where is that one? Deform displace. Create a new texture. And decrease the strength to probably -1 or 2. And then go to texture tab. Pick Stucci. Improved purling. And I think I like the size, but if you want the bumps to be smoother, you can increase the size. Actually, this is not bad. Or decrease it if you want them to be more defined. And then we can place these in different locations. Maybe one here. And just put it around this complex. So I duplicated this sphere and placed it around the complex. You can also scale it up and down and just change the size, move it around all the axes to get something that looks like this. Now time for lighting and coloring. So let's go to the viewport shading. I should change our render engine to cycle. Okay. So there's a default light up there. The radius we can change. It might be set on 0, but you can change it and make it larger. Let's move that to the middle. I think I'm gonna go with a bit of a darker background or darker world and then have some lighting in the middle. I think it's too bright. Let's change the radius first, maybe to 1.5, and move it probably and change the, also let's change the world to a bit of a darker color. And then I'm gonna duplicate the light. Let's now change the light color. Okay. Play with the lighting until you get to something that you like. You can create multiple lights, you can use different type of lights, you can change the light type here by point, sun, spot area, until you get to something that you like. So here's mine. I ended up using a smaller lights, change the intensity and color, and just put them in different locations. Another thing, I also increased the thickness for the solidify modifier for some of these, just because it looked like too thin. Now let's do material.
Yep.
I want to try this. Okay, let's go to material tab and create a new one. And I kind of like to try this one called subsurface scattering. I feel like this thing suits biological textures very well. You can change the scale and intensity of it. One thing that I always forget to do is that when you are making multiple instances of an object, if you create the material from the beginning, even if you're not ready and you're not sure what material you're going to use, but just creating it, and then when you duplicate the shapes, the objects, whenever you change the material for one of them, it applies to all of them, so you don't have to do it for each of them. But I always forget to do that, so I have to now select them and apply the material and assign the material to them one by one. But let's just name this, name the material vesicle, just because it will be easier to find it. And then now I have to select all of them and just assign the material. But if you remember to do this from the beginning, you don't need to do that. And same for these spheres. Let's see, let's try. Yeah, we're gonna make this one, name it a sphere. We can use, again, subsurface scattering, or maybe emission, and then change the color of the emission. Another one that I like very much is glass. Actually, doesn't look really good. Let's look at the preview. No, not glass. Diffuse, maybe. Yeah, there's a lot of different materials here you can pick. Oh, this one, translucent. That's the one I was looking for. Yeah, I like that one. And then pick the color. The one thing with these that have a bit of light emission is that you might not see the texture, the bumpy texture we created here very well. Anyway, pick whatever you like, play with it. Maybe I just go back to the principal BSDF, which is the default material. Just, that's my challenge always. There's a lot of options and they all look fun. So it's hard to pick. Okay, I go with this one. And if you want to give it a shiny look, you can decrease the roughness so it looks a little bit shiny now. You can give it a bit of subsurface scattering, but you can just play and see what you like. And again, because I forgot to assign the material from the beginning, now I have to select all of these spheres and assign the material to them one by one. Now let's add a bit of a background because it's too plain right now. So let's add a plain mesh, move it to the back, rotate it, scale it, and actually let's set up our camera so we know how much background we need. So you can set up your camera angle however you like. This is the, can check the camera to view and then move it around so it gets locked to the view. And if you wanna increase the size of this bounding box, uncheck that, use the mouse wheel or command ++ to zoom in, and then lock it again. I think I'm gonna go for an angle like this. Okay. Then now I know how much of that background plane I need. I'm just gonna make sure it's covering all the frame. Okay, I think it's good now. Now let's add some texture to the background because it's just too simple right now. Let's get out of the camera view, go to shader editor here, create a new material. Let's add a noise texture. Noise magic. Actually, maybe Voronoi. Yeah, I like this one. Okay, this is like the simplest setup that we can do. Apply a scale. Okay. Then you can, let's go to camera view again. You can change the scale of the texture. I think it's good now. Another thing, actually, let's get rid of the grids to see. So it's kind of how it looks like if we render it. Another thing we can do is setting up a depth of field for the camera, which I went over it in the previous tutorial. But if you want to do that, select the camera, go to, well, let's place an object, an empty plane axis for the depth of field. Add plane axis, move it where you want the focus of the camera to be. I want to put in this sphere in the middle. I think it's good. Let's go back to camera view. Now if you go to our camera, check depth of field, and for the object, let's choose MT, I think it was MT001. Yeah. And then decrease the f-stop to get a better view. So what this one does, it focuses the camera on what you select, and everything else would be a little bit out of focus. Okay, so this is pretty much it. You can render it now, and if you want to change the render setting, go to Render tab. Remember to decrease the number of samples for render, otherwise this thing would take forever. You usually don't need more than a few hundred, maybe 300. And you can decrease the light path numbers, probably around 6. So all of this helps to shorten the render time. Another thing you can do, if you don't like the ratio of the image right now, you can change that, change your resolution here in the this tab, output tab. You can change to as many pixels as you like. And if you can also change the percent. So right now it's 100%. This would be the dimension of your image when it's rendered. If you change this to 200, it's going to be double that, but it's going to take longer time. So I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to leave any comment or questions that you might have, and we'll see you next time.